We legitimately don't know what China is doing on the other side of the moon.
No, we don't. Yeah.
I'm getting real upset.
If China can cool their quantum computers with helium-3 before we can, the jig is up. This is part of the power of space. We, as an American society, tend to just believe our own press and think that our way of thinking is dominant. And it has worked. But if we don't understand China's cultural mindset, we could end up being a victim to it. Because, it's back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. Know thy enemy, know thyself. And if you are deceived in your own arrogance and your own dominance of the past, that what you did in the past is sufficient to win in the future, eventually you're going to be a dead man.
What is helium-3 energy?
Yeah, so helium-3 is an element that doesn't get to Earth very much because our atmosphere and our gravitational field prevent it from landing on the Earth. So an ounce of helium-3 on the Earth is very, very expensive, and the business case doesn't really close. But on the moon or on the asteroids, there's a ton of helium-3. And so to give you an example of what it means, if we were to mine the moon for helium-3, we could, at the current level of electricity use in America, or not in America, in the globe, we could power the energy needs of the human race for thousands of years based on the helium-3 that's on the moon right now.
So since I've been diving deeper into the world of quantum computers and quantum computing, one thing that's really stood out to me is that we're in this global race. The United States isn't the only player trying to build quantum computers. And one of our strongest competitors is China. I learned today about helium-3, and helium-3 is a very effective coolant. And helium-3 refrigerators are devices that are used in experimental physics for obtaining temperatures down to about 0.2 Kelvin. And why is that important? Because quantum computers, the way their physical properties work, the way we can control and manipulate atoms, is we have to cool them to near absolute zero. Evaporative cooling at low pressure of liquid helium-3, usually driven by absorption, since due to its high price, the helium-3 is usually contained in a closed system to avoid losses.
The problem here is in my view, it is that we do not have a sense of how dramatically things will change with these technologies that are in space. We build better satellites than anybody on the planet. Okay, we build better fighters, tanks, ships, submarines. We build really cool stuff, better than anybody else in the world in many cases. There are exceptions, of course. But what beats good technology is a superior strategy. So China may not, they may be a fast follower where they look a lot like our F-22 in their fighters. They look a lot like Elon Musk's, rocket ships. They may be a fast follower, but they aren't interested in making better technology. They are building a strategy of logistics and infrastructure in space that will change the game for the energy and information market on Earth. And we are on a strategy that builds better satellites to do the same things we've done before. And there are efforts to do these other things, but it's not fueled by the kind of money to operationalize it and really compete. This is why, strategy eats technology for lunch.
Man, this is really alarming. I mean, who knows what they're doing over there? We know
we know they're mining. Okay, we know they're bringing back, because we can see what they're bringing back, and this is all open source. We can, in open source, you can see some of the things that China's doing, and so we have evidence of some of the things they're doing, but we don't know the extent, and that's part of the problem. And this goes back to why truth and information is the most important element. Because, it's back to Sun Tzu and the art of war. Know thy enemy, know thyself. And if you are deceived in your own arrogance and your own dominance of the past, that what you did in the past is sufficient to win in the future, eventually you're going to be a dead man.
What that means, and if I'm applying that to the current quantum landscape of the US and China and the legislation, there's not a sense of urgency or enough sense of urgency from the US to pass pending legislation. There's two major multi-billion dollar bills that have bipartisan support in Congress currently that are sitting there. They're not passed. And this race is, the consequences can be dire. And I think this is often a missed point of this whole conversation about quantum and quantum computing, is not all the good things that it could do, but in the hands of an adversary or someone who wished harm or wished to expose or blackmail or reveal secrets, deep secrets that were never meant to be unlocked. That is where the conversation steers into a little bit of a more scary place. I want to set the foundation of this conversation with something that I think is pretty important, is that my operating thesis at this point in time is that we are behind China, and not by a little bit, but by an increasing amount. Every week that goes by that the US drags their feet, China pulls farther and farther ahead in the quantum computer race. I'm going to show you a few sources for that. So global visits to China's Origin Wukong quantum computer have surpassed 20 million. Most of those have come from the United States. Since its launch on January 6, 2024, Origin Wukong has completed over 339,000 quantum computing tasks across various industries, including fluid dynamics, finance, and biomedicine. Maybell Quantum secures helium-3 supply from Interloon for scalable cryogenics. So this is a recent article. This is May 8th, about 19 days ago. So helium-3 is essential for operating dilution refrigerators that cool quantum processors to millikelvin temperatures, enabling the stable operation of qubits. Maybell Quantum, the quantum infrastructure company, has agreed to purchase thousands of liters of helium-3 for yearly delivery from 2029 to 2035. So there does seem to be a lot of demand for helium-3. Interloon also announced a purchase agreement with the US Department of Energy isotope program. So this is a more recent article. This is May 19th of 2025. A moon mining machine, Interloon, the same company we just talked about, unveils helium-3 harvester prototype. The high rate excavation needed to harvest helium-3 from the moon in large quantities has never been attempted before, let alone with high efficiency. Intricate machine, a full-scale prototype of the Interloon excavator, which was developed in partnership with Vermeer. The excavator will harvest helium-3 on the moon if all goes according to plan. We just got our first look at a prototype for a novel moon mining machine. When you're operating equipment on the moon, reliability and performance standards are at a new level. The high rate excavation needed to harvest helium-3 from the moon in large quantities has never been attempted before, let alone with high efficiency. So this is an older article, but this isn't a new story. Report: China is challenging US leadership in quantum. According to a report, China leads in quantum communication and matches the US in quantum sensing, but lags behind in quantum computing. In September of 2024, that may have been the case, but as you'll see later in this video, I believe they've also pulled ahead in computing. The report urges the US to take immediate action, recommending increased R&D funding and international collaboration to counter China's insular strategy and maintain quantum leadership. China leads the US in both quantity and quality of its research output in the field of quantum communication. China claims over $15 billion in public funding for quantum R&D, offsetting a US advantage private funding. The United States should take immediate and decisive action to maintain its leadership in quantum technology. And these sorts of calls to action have been frequent and have come from many different sources, not just this report. And we've seen multiple reports or requests for more urgent action even this year. This is from March of 2025. China achieves quantum supremacy claim with new chip 1 quadrillion times faster than the most powerful supercomputers. The new superconducting prototype quantum processor achieved benchmarking results to rival Google's Willow QPU. This article is from March of 2025 from the State Council Information Office, People's Republic of China. China is using 4.0 prototype designed to integrate over 2,000 photons, is poised to break quantum supremacy benchmarks and has the potential to redefine the competitive landscape of quantum computing. Microsoft says US can't afford falling behind China in quantum computing. President Donald Trump and the US government need to prioritize funding for quantum research, or China could surpass the US, endangering economic competitiveness and security. This is the point I want to make, you guys. The largest tech companies in the world right now are completely and utterly dominated by the United States. We have the Magnificent Seven. They're not just the Magnificent Seven of the US, they're also some of the biggest tech companies in the entire world. If we are to lose, and Michio Kaku, one of the scientists who's done a ton of quantum research, famously said,
"The question is, who's involved in this race to perfect quantum computers?" And the answer is everyone. All the big players are part of this race, because if they're not, Silicon Valley could become the next Rust Belt.
While most believe that the United States still holds the lead, we cannot afford to rule out the possibility of a strategic surprise, or that China may already be at parity with the United States. Simply put, the United States cannot afford to fall behind, or worse, lose the race entirely. China's quantum strategy and the threat of global data-centric authoritarianism. China has dedicated substantial resources to quantum research, arguably outpacing US government funding in key areas of quantum computing and cryptography. The report emphasizes the urgency for civil society groups, journalists, human rights organizations to adopt quantum-resistant cryptographic methods before adversaries gain decryption capabilities. From Harvard Kennedy School, another technology race, US-China quantum computing landscape. There's one assertion which most American politicians can all agree, at least publicly. China is a dangerous adversary to the US. To say otherwise, or even to take a more moderate stance as an elected official, could be perceived as un-American. I also had Google Gemini run a deep research on this, and I'm going to share this link with you all in case you're wanting to dive deeper. So I'm going to put it in the description of the YouTube video. China's methodical lunar exploration program, CLEP, has systematically progressed with upcoming missions explicitly targeting resource utilization and the establishment of a lunar research station, while China has confirmed the president's presence of helium-3 in lunar samples and is actively researching extraction technologies. China currently holds the top 3 spots for the most powerful quantum computers. So they're using 3, Suzheng 3 with 105 qubits, 255 photons, and then their Origin Wukong with 72 qubits, and then Google's Sycamore. This all needs to be taken with a grain of salt. So China hits a new landmark in global quantum computing race. This one was pretty important. Developed by Chinese quantum physicists, Zhuzhongqing 3 features 105 readable qubits and 182 couplers. It processes quantum random circuit sampling tasks at a speed quadrillion times faster than the world's most powerful supercomputer, and 1 million times faster than Google's latest results published in Nature in October 2024. We've covered some of these stories on thequantumbull.com, and I'm going to pull up a couple just to show you. Finally, and most recently, one of our better articles recently on April 5th, DARPA and the US Chamber of Commerce push to accelerate quantum computing. So the US government ramps up support for quantum computing with new initiatives. And I cannot overstate the importance of maintaining the US competitive advantage in quantum capacities. The global leader in commercial and military quantum applications will have an economic and strategic advantage not seen since the United States ushered in the nuclear age. This is Representative Frank Lucas. A new era for quantum computing. The US Chamber of Commerce released a report stressing that quantum technology is poised to reshape computing, communications, and national defense. Quantum computers have vast untapped potential for both good and evil, which is why it's so important that we stay ahead of our adversaries on these technologies. That's Representative Frank Lucas. We also have the U.S. Chamber of Commerce urging faster action on quantum computing. That video is on my channel if you'd like to go look at that. Our team is eager to scrutinize the commercial concepts, designs, R&D plans, and prototype hardware, all with the goal of helping the U.S. government identify and support efforts that are genuinely advancing toward transformative, fault-tolerant quantum computing. So now we're bringing it to today. U.S. Defense Intelligence flags rivals growing military use of quantum tech. The 2025 DIA threat assessment warns that quantum technologies are nearing operational military use with rival nations, investing in sensing, secure communications, and computing to challenge U.S. strategic advantages. Quantum sensors and communications are progressing faster than computing, with China and Russia expanding city-scale quantum networks and developing detection tools that could bypass traditional stealth and GPS systems. These advantages are part of a broader convergence with AI, electronic warfare, and microelectronics. The Data Threat Report warns that quantum and AI technologies are reshaping enterprise security risks, with quantum decryption and AI-driven data integrity threats emerging as top concerns. A 5,000 qubit quantum computer was used to break a 50-bit RSA encryption, signaling real-world progress toward potential compromise of classical systems. Nearly 70% of surveyed organizations cited the fast-moving generative AI ecosystem as their top security risk. Okay, so we've just looked at dozens of articles. I'm going to leave the deep research in the comments. What do you all think? A government standpoint, from US government standpoint, we are not taking the threat of quantum seriously enough. We need decisive and quick action. We need funding for quantum companies in the US, both private and public. What we need to do is really be active with our legislators. And I have reached out personally to Dick Durbin, and Dick Durbin has House legislation to support the future of quantum research at the Energy Department. The Department of Energy Quantum Leadership Act would authorize more than $2.5 billion for quantum research conducted at the DOE. I wanted to bring him on and talk to him a little bit about quantum and the act. If you would like to see that interview, please reach out to Dick Durbin and say, hey, go on and talk to Majid on the Quantum Bull, and let's hear about what you think about quantum and the importance of his bill and getting it through Congress. And maybe we can do a little bit of activism as well as investing, because it doesn't look like the US government is taking this seriously enough. And this could cause some serious problems in the future for the US economy, US security, US military. And I know there's followers that are outside of the US, but no one is immune to the potential possible negative things that can be the outcome of all of this. So I implore you to take action and do as you see fit. And if that is investing in quantum stocks, good on you. If you want to, reach out to Dick and let me know what you think in the comments. I'm really curious to hear what people's thoughts are about all this. All right. Hope you guys have a good day.